Hello, my name is Kathy, and this is a Prepositions live class with CINCILINGUA. If you have questions today during the class, you can move your mouse around until you see the icon that says chat. When you click on this icon, it will open a white rectangle like this one, and there's a place at the bottom for you to type. When you hit enter, I will be able to see your questions, and I will be answering questions at the end of today's lesson. Let's look at the prepositions we will talk about today. It looks like they will be very confusing because many of them are similar. Actually, the ones that are similar, a lot of the ones that look similar to one another actually have the same meaning. And so you can say two different ways to mean the same thing. Here is the first example: amid and amidst. Amid and amidst. Both of these mean surrounded by or in the middle of. So if I am surrounded by something, it is in front of me, it is on each side of me and behind me. So in a circle around me, or in maybe a square around me, all the way around me is whatever that I am surrounded by. So amid and amidst both mean surrounded by or in the middle of. The difference is that they say about amidst, they are interchangeable, meaning that you can pick this one or this one, it doesn't matter. Both of these sound pretty formal. We'll talk about that in a little bit, the fact that they sound formal. Guess what? Amid, amidst, among, and amongst actually can mean all four of them the same thing, because we said amid is surrounded by and in the middle of. Among can also mean surrounded by, in the middle of. And amongst has the same meaning. The difference between amid and amidst, among and amongst is, yes, among can mean surrounded by and in the middle of, but among has more meanings. It can also mean being a member of a larger group, or it can mean occurring in practice by some members of a community. Okay. I think this would say occurring in or practiced by. I think there's a typo there. That something is occurring in a group in the community, or it's practiced by a group in the community. So amid and amidst, among and amongst can both mean surrounded by and in the middle of, and among and amongst also have the meanings of being a member of a larger group and occurring in or practiced by some members of a community. And this will be more clear when you see some examples. But the difference between among and amongst, it says that amongst seems old-fashioned. It might sound pretentious. Well, something that is old-fashioned is an old way of saying something, that we don't say it that way as often anymore. In this day and age, in the present, we are more likely to say among, and a long time ago, people would say amongst instead of among. And because it sounds old-fashioned, they say it might sound pretentious. Pretentious is a big word. Pretentious means if someone says that you are pretentious, they are saying something that they don't like about you. You don't want someone to say you are pretentious. Someone who is pretentious is trying very hard to sound very smart, is trying very hard to make other people think that they are smart, or that they know a lot, or that they are important. And they are using very many big words to try to make themselves sound important, or to make themselves sound smart. And so if you think someone is pretentious, you don't really believe they are smart. You don't really think that they are important. you just think, wow, that person is trying too hard to impress everyone. And it is too important to them that other people like them. It's not nice to sound pretentious. Again, I think once you see some examples, it will be easier to understand. Okay, beside and besides. This group is the one where they are two different meanings. They sound almost the same. Beside and besides sound almost the same. Beside means close to or next to. Besides means in addition to or apart from. So these four were all very similar in their meaning. Beside and besides do not mean the same thing as each other. Toward, towards. Toward, towards. The O doesn't really have very much sound. It almost sounds like a T and a W right next to each other. Toward, towards. Both of them mean in the direction of or in relation to. In the direction of or in relation to. They both have the same meaning. Whoops. But, sorry, I clicked by accident. They both have the same meaning, but people tend to prefer one or the other. Depending on what area of the country you live in, you are used to hearing people say toward, or you are used to hearing people say towards. And one of them usually sounds very good to you, and the other one sounds very wrong. And so there is not really a right or a wrong, but because you are used to hearing it one way or you're used to hearing it the other way, a lot of people have a strong feeling about that. And if you are in an area and everybody in that area says towards and you say toward with no S at the end, they will look at you and think, wow, that didn't sound right when you said it that way. And just the opposite. If you're someplace where you're used to saying towards and you say it with an S and people are not used to hearing that S, there are some people that will have a kind of a strong reaction and think that didn't sound right. You don't sound like you are using that word correctly. So it really depends on which area of the country you're in, which one you are used to. Now, under and underneath are similar. They're not exactly the same, but they are close. I'm so sorry. I keep moving my mouse to try to point to things and I accidentally clicking. Under means in a lower place or position. And sometimes if you say under, you mean that it is covered by something. Underneath also means to be in a lower place or position. But if something is underneath, it is at least partly covered. So part of whatever it is that is underneath, at least part of it, or maybe all of it, is covered up by something. And again, this will be clear once we see an example. Let's get into the examples here. Okay, amid and amidst. And remember, both of these mean the same thing, amid and amidst. The prisoner managed to escape amid the confusion, or the prisoner managed to escape amidst the confusion. And amidst the confusion, this just means this person is a prisoner. They managed to escape. The person was able to get out of the jail amidst the confusion. In the middle of, because there was confusion everywhere, no one was looking at the prisoner. They were all confused by whatever thing was happening. And because no one was looking at the prisoner, that was the perfect time for the prisoner to escape. Let's see another example, meaning surrounded by or in the middle of. Okay. It was hard to hear the announcer amid all the cheering. It was hard to hear the announcer amidst all the cheering. So this person is at some kind of a sporting game. It looks like they have a soccer goal up down here. And so I can see that there is a flag in the middle of the field. There might be some music playing, and this person is standing up and cheering. And you can imagine that many people in this stadium, in this arena, are standing up and cheering. And so the announcer, the person that is explaining, and next we will have someone come to sing the national anthem or something. It's hard to hear what the announcer is saying because so many people are cheering. There is so much cheering everywhere that in the middle of that cheering, it is hard to hear the announcer's voice in the middle of. And so amid and amidst. You can see the word middle has M-I-D, middle, and amid and amidst both have M-I-D, meaning in the middle. So with all of the cheering in the big stadium, in the middle of the cheering, it is hard to hear the announcer's voice. This sentence, I feel like I have heard this sentence on the news often. And this sentence, they say it always exactly this way. The investigation continues amid growing concerns, or the investigation continues amidst growing concerns. So the investigation, what is an investigation? An investigation is when policemen, detectives, here these people are trying to get clues. They have on special clothes so that they don't accidentally have any hair come from their head onto the crime scene. An investigation is when detectives, police officers, many people like that work and try to find clues to try to figure out what happened. If it looks like in this case, you see a little bit of an outline of someone's body, someone was killed. Did the person fall and hurt themselves and they got killed? It was an accident. Did someone kill them on purpose? Exactly how did it happen, and who did the killing? They are going to do an investigation to try to find out. And so the investigation continues. So they started an investigation and now they are going to keep going with the investigation. And here is why they are continuing. Because it is in the middle of, it is amidst growing concerns. If you are concerned about something, then you are worried about it, you are thinking about it. It is on your mind a lot. And so growing concerns means, wow, I'm thinking more and more about this. This is not somebody who just fell down and hit their head and they died. There are more reasons and more reasons now for us to think that something bad happened here and that someone caused this person to die. Someone murdered or killed this person. We are very concerned. The concerns are getting bigger and bigger. There are growing concerns. So the investigation is continuing amid growing concerns or amidst growing concerns. The concerns are getting bigger, and in the middle of all these big concerns, we are continuing to investigate. And so I think of all of the times that I ever hear the word amid or amidst, this sentence right here is the one that I think is the most famous, the most common one where I hear amid or amidst. Okay, so here is another example, and you can understand this means surrounded by or in the middle of. It is difficult to find the fruit amid all the leaves or amidst all the leaves. The fruit here is surrounded, it is covered up, it is everywhere there are leaves, and they're looking. Where is the fruit? We're going to try to pick some fruit. We're trying to find the fruit, and it's like all these leaves are covering up what it is that they're trying to pick. It's difficult to find it because it is in the middle of many leaves, or it is surrounded by many leaves. And so we can use amid or amidst because they mean surrounded by or in the middle of. But if you remember, when I first started the lesson, I said among and amongst can also mean surrounded by or in the middle of. So I could say this same sentence, it is difficult to find the fruit among all the leaves. It is difficult to find the fruit amongst all the leaves. Either the amid, the amidst, among, amongst, all of those, because this situation means surrounded by or in the middle of, we could use any of those four. So the difference is that among and amongst have that meaning, surrounded by, in the middle of. It also has a second meaning and a third meaning. Let's look at some more examples. Snakes are among the animals most feared by humans. Snakes are amongst the animals most feared by humans. So snakes they are being a member of a larger group. Snakes are a member of a larger group. There is a large group of animals that humans, that people are afraid of. People are afraid of snakes. Some people are afraid of spiders. Some people are afraid of rats or mice. There is a group of animals that people are afraid of. And snakes are a member, they are part of that group. Snakes are not the only thing in that group. They are in the middle of that group. They are part of that group. Maybe they are the thing that people are most afraid of, or maybe people are afraid of other things and they're a little bit afraid of snakes. It doesn't matter. We know that snakes are in the group of things that people are afraid of. So they are among the animals or amongst the animals that are most feared by humans. There has been a rise in eating disorders among children and adolescents, or there has been a rise in eating disorders amongst children and adolescents. This may be due to the influence of social media. You can see when you look at this person's arm, it's very, very thin, that she is not eating enough food to have a healthy arm. She's too thin. And an eating disorder is when somebody would look at that arm and say, oh, I am so fat, I should not eat any more food. If she looks at her body and sees her body in a way that is not the way the rest of the world sees her body, nobody else will look at her body and say, wow, she is very heavy. But she thinks that about herself. And so the way that she has chosen to eat and drink is not something that is healthy for her body. It's called an eating disorder. And when we say there has been a rise in eating disorders, that means that there are more and more and more now eating disorders. And who is having this eating disorders? The group of people that are children and adolescents. So this eating disorders problem is happening. It's occurring in these groups that are a member of a community, or it's practiced by these people that are a member of the community, the children and the adolescents. Maybe not the adults, maybe not the seniors who are much older, but amongst the children and the adolescents, the teenagers, or among the children and the adolescents. Okay, moving on. Now we have beside. And remember that all of the ones that we have talked about up until now have been similar to one another. And now we get to beside and besides, and those two are different from each other. So beside means close to or next to. And when we say next to, we mean to the side of. And you can see that in the word beside, it has the word side in it. And so here is a woman, and the dog is at her side. And it says, my dog loves to sit beside me. The dog is not sitting on her. The dog is not sitting under her. It is not behind her. It is beside. It is to her side. And so in an example like this, we would not say my dog loves to sit beside me, because yes, this dog is next to, is close to. but this dog is not to the side of. It says this picture is not a good example. The dog is close to her, but it is not to the side of her. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't matter very much about side or front or back when you have something that does not have a front and a back and a side. For example, if I use the word beside to say something about food, where should I put this bread? Put it on the table. Put it on the table beside the rice. The rice does not have a front or a back. The rice does not have a side. And so if you put it next to or close to the rice, then you are putting it beside the rice. And in that example, it does not really matter about having a side, but people do have a front, people do have a back, and people do have over here, and over here is the side. And if the dog is here or the dog is here, then the dog is beside her. This dog is close to her, but it is not beside her. Okay, these ones, it says my dogs sit beside one another. This is the side of the dog. This is the side of the dog. We can see the front of the dogs. We cannot see the back of the dogs, but they are touching each other's sides. My dogs sit beside one another. Now, this one is besides. We had beside meaning close to something and on the side of that thing. Besides means something different. When we add the S, it changes the meaning. Here, besides means in addition to or apart from. So here is the example. Besides English and Spanish, the most commonly spoken languages in the USA are Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, French, Arabic, and Korean. So besides English and Spanish, in addition to English and Spanish. So English is the most spoken, Spanish is the second most spoken. And in addition to those two, here are some others that are also common in the United States. Are you surprised that Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, French, Arabic, and Korean are popular in certain areas of the United States? Not in every area of the United States, but in certain areas of the United States, there are large groups that speak Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, French, Arabic, or Korean. So here when we're using besides with an S, we mean in addition to. And here, besides their award-winning bread, the bakery also sells a variety of pastries. So this does not mean that they took the bread and they put the bread on the counter next to the pastries. It doesn't say beside the pastries. It's not saying next to the pastries. It's saying apart from or in addition to. This bakery has bread that is so good that the bread has won awards. The bakery, everybody knows this bakery has a wonderful bread. But also, in addition to that, also the bakery has a variety of pastries and many different kinds of pastries, of sweet desserts. So the bakery has bread and the bakery has many different kinds of pastries. And so besides the bread, in addition to the bread, they also have pastries. Okay, toward and towards, these mean the same. And just depending on where you are in the country, different people want you to hear you say toward, or they want to hear you say towards. We drove toward the mountains. We drove towards the mountains. This means in the direction of, or in relation to. They're going in the direction of the mountains. They're going towards the mountains. The toddler is walking toward or towards his mother. And toddler here means a child that is learning to walk. That's why when we use the word toddler. If you toddle, it means instead of just walking very easily, like an adult walks, someone that toddles kind of tips back and forth and maybe falls over. So if you're a toddler, you are still learning how to walk. Now here, in the direction of, should we place the chair so that it is facing toward the TV or toward the fireplace? Should it be facing towards the TV or towards the fireplace? I need to put this chair in the room. Which way should I turn it? Should I turn it toward or towards the TV? Should I turn it toward or towards the fireplace? Which way will it be in the direction of? In the relationship with the television or the fireplace? Okay, now this one means in relation to. In this example, the person is not in the direction of it's in relation to. He acted kindly toward her. He acted kindly towards her. So he is doing something kind for this person. And so the kindness is given to this woman. And it's not talking about which direction he's moving. It's talking about the relationship that he is doing something kind for her. That doesn't mean that he will know her and that they will stay friends forever. It just means that between these two people, he was being kind and did something kind for her. And that is an easier way to say this. It is easier to say he was kind to her, or he did something kind for her. To say he acted kindly toward her or he acted kindly towards her is very formal. I don't think people would say that in speech, in everyday speech. That's something that maybe you would read. People would understand the meaning of that, to act kindly towards someone, to act kindly towards or toward someone. But most people would just say, oh, he was kind to her. He was kind to her. Under in a lower place or a lower position, and sometimes it means that you're covered up by something. So the mechanic crawled under the car. The mechanic is in a lower position than the car. The car is up high. The mechanic is down under, is lower than the car. And part of his body is covered up, but when you use the word under, you don't always have to mean covered up. Here is an example. The dog sat under the table. The table is not really covering the dog. It's not touching the dog. Maybe if you are standing and you're looking down, maybe you cannot see the dog. And in that way, it kind of covers the dog. Or if you drop something on the table, it doesn't hit the dog. The dog is kind of covered that way. But if you are standing far away in the room, you can easily see the dog. The dog is not covered up by the table. The dog is not hidden by the table, even though he is under the table. The table is up high and the dog is lower than the table. The dog sat under the table. The paintings are on a shelf under the clock. So the clock is in a high position, the paintings are lower, and the clock is not covering up or hiding the pictures. It is easy to see the clock. It is easy to see the pictures. They are not being hidden by the clock. Underneath, at least part of something is covered up when you say underneath. It says, when Buddy is frightened, he hides underneath a blanket. Now, I could say he hides under a blanket, because under can mean covered up by, or under can mean it doesn't have to be covered up by. But if I say underneath, then at least part of the dog should be hidden by the blanket, underneath the blanket. And so we can see part of him. So he is at least partly covered. Part of him is covered, but not all of him is covered. It could be all of him is covered. He hides underneath the blanket, and then we only see blanket and we don't see dog. Okay, it took me a long time to find my missing shoe. It was hidden underneath my bed. When I'm looking for my shoes and I'm looking everywhere in the room, and then I have to get on the floor and I have to lift up the covers of the bed to see the shoe, because the shoe was covered. The shoe was hidden by the bed. There was no way for me to see the shoe until I lifted up the blankets of the bed. It was covered. The whole shoe was covered. And so that's why I would say underneath instead of under. Under is okay. It was hidden under my bed. But when I say underneath, I mean the whole thing is covered. The whole thing is hidden. Today will be especially cold. I will wear a turtleneck underneath my coat. Underneath my coat. So at least part of this turtleneck, we call these kind of a shirt, a turtleneck. You look like you could duck your head down and hide your head the way that a turtle would hide. A turtleneck, at least part of this turtleneck is covered up by the coat. Okay, so we can say underneath. So let's do a quick review. We said amid and amidst can mean the same thing. To me, both of these sound formal. I would maybe put those in writing. I don't even think I would use them in writing unless I was really trying to be formal. But they mean surrounded by or in the middle of. Among and amongst mean kind of the same thing as amid and amidst, but they have some extra meanings. Being a member of a larger group, like the snakes were part of a big group of animals that people are afraid of, or something that is occurring in or practiced by some members of the community. So among all of the people in the United States, the children and the teenagers were having an eating disorder. Not everyone in the United States, the children and the teenagers. So in the middle of all of the people, it was the children and the teenagers. And so there was one question asking with amid and amidst and among and amongst. We did say some people, if you say amongst, some people will think you are just trying to sound too fancy. You are trying to sound too intelligent, that one doesn't sound good to a lot of people because it just sounds too old-fashioned. But between amid and amidst and among, which one do I say was the question. And actually, I would say because I don't have a lot of times that I have to write something that is very formal, I don't say any of them. Instead of saying amid or amidst or among or amongst, I would probably say in the middle of. It is hard to find the fruit in the middle of all these leaves. So it's good to know the meaning of these. I personally don't say any of those four very often. Now, beside and besides, those I do use. Beside meaning close to or next to, especially meaning to the side of. And then besides meaning in addition to. So there is this one thing, and then there is also a second or third thing. Okay, besides. Toward and towards means the same thing, going in the direction of. Which one do you use? It depends on where you live. I have gotten so used to being around people from so many different areas that I go back and forth between toward and towards. Just because I've been around people that like toward and I've been around people that like towards. And so I switch pretty quickly back and forth. Under and underneath, the difference being under means that you're down low and something else is higher than you, and maybe it covers you and maybe it doesn't cover you. But if we use underneath, something is up high and you are down lower than that thing, and whatever it is that is higher than you has to cover at least part of you. So that is the differences that we have. And I don't have any other questions, which is good because I'm out of time for questions anyway. We had a very busy class today. I really, really appreciate having you. Thank you so much for joining me for this live class about prepositions. And I hope that you can be part of the next live class from CINCILINGUA.